Welcome back to another episode of Doing Life with Dr. Maria. For those who do not know me, I am Dr. Maria. I'm a pharmacist by trade and a lifelong learner on purpose. My goal is to educate, inspire, and challenge you to see life from a different perspective. How do I do this? Well, by providing educational content through industry leaders, empowerment strategies, virtual lectures, and sharing the experiences of others in hopes to empower you to embrace truth and live a purposeful life. Before I introduce you to our special guest today, hey Mimi, tell us what's fascinating.
Hi guys, it's Mimi here with some fascinating tips about buying a home. My first tip for you today would be to find a reputable real estate agent. Your real estate agent is going to be your go-to person and your advocate during your home buying process. Also, figure out how much home you can afford. Get pre-approved, that way you can know before you go. Visit annualcreditreport.com. Check your credit report for errors. Start early so that you can file any necessary disputes or get incorrect information taken care of. Your credit score is going to be a very important part of the home buying process. Check with your local community to find out if there's any home buyer programs available to you. Some cities offer first-time home buyer programs if you are a first-time home buyer. So maybe check your local government website to see if that's something that's available in your city. USDA, FHA, and VHA loans. Your real estate agent can let you know if those are programs that you qualify for. Again, your new best friend. One last website for you today is going to be NACA.com. That's NACA.com. Visit their website and you can also find out about their lending program and what type of funding and programs they offer. Those are all of my tips for you today, and until next time, stay fascinating.
Thanks, Mimi. Wow, that is fascinating. Now, guys, let's start the show. It's going to be a good one. Hello. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. How are you, Dr. Maria?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, look, it's going to be a good time. We're going to talk about purchasing a home during the pandemic. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I'm Joni Freeman, for those of you who don't know. I am a real estate broker in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I have been in real estate for approximately 10 years now. I've been a licensed agent for 10 years and a broker for approximately 5 years, and started J.L. Marsaw and Company Realtors about 5 years ago. I met Dr. Maria actually in school studying to be a pharmacist, so we go quite a ways back, Xavier University of Louisiana, XU.
Yes.
And I'm here trying to make it just like everybody else, going through this pandemic and hanging in here.
Yes. Well, you know what? Listen, y'all. One thing I want to say is you made the first point. You said you're hanging in there. And as you're multifaceted, you're a pharmacist by trade, and you are a real estate broker as well. I want to ask you the question. Well, let's back up and say hanging in there. A lot of people are feeling that same way right now. Mm-hmm. And I know that a lot of people are saying I'm planning on buying a home. I wanted to purchase a home, right? That's what during the summer, is that the busiest season during the summer? Is that
spring and summer are the busiest seasons? Yes.
So for those people who are feeling, anxious about purchasing a home, when you say hanging in there, tell me, what would you tell them right now? Just in one word, what would you say to those people who may be feeling anxious about purchasing a home?
You know what? I understand the anxiety, and there's reason for it. Definitely, it's real. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now. However, if you have plans to purchase a home and have, been wanting to do so, I don't think you should necessarily let the COVID-19 pandemic discourage you from that. We are seeing people entering the marketplace, still making purchases, being able to get extremely great rates right now. What I do tell people is make sure that your financial situation and your ability to maintain that situation is going to stay stable. Speak with your financial advisor. If you're going to pay cash, for example, speak with a mortgage officer that you can trust, a professional that's been highly recommended to you. and let them know your full situation and assess, the benefits and risks for yourself. Make the right decision for yourself.
Okay. And so that's really good, making the right decision for yourself, because it is, like you said, an individual decision.
Correct.
And making sure you have the right people on your team. So now with you and your company, do you guys have like people to go to, like a financial advisor? Do you have people that you recommend? Because that was some good advice there.
So typically we have lenders that we work with. We have a group of preferred lenders that we've worked with in the past on, different deals. And so we'll send our clients a preferred list of lenders. And then also if they're interested in speaking with a financial advisor, because everybody's not in a position where they want to necessarily do a mortgage, right? Some people want to do cash. We have financial advisors on hand that can walk them through that process and tell them, basically looking at your finances, you should do A, B, or C.
Okay. And that's good to know, because some people really don't know, especially our first time home buyers. Like myself, I remember when I purchased a home, I really just kind of went through the process. Luckily, I had someone who was a family friend that I trusted enough to go through the process. Like, okay, sign here. That's realistic for some people. And one thing, doing this show here, we want to ease that anxiety that you might be feeling when purchasing a home or trying to do it during this time frame. So one thing I just wanted to ask you to about regarding like real estate in the industry. Now I know, let's talk about the sellers right now. Say if somebody's trying to sell their home, are there any safety precautions that they could take if people are entering their home during COVID-19? What would you recommend for them?
So the first thing I would do with the seller is say, let's do a 3D property tour on your home so that we can reduce the number of people that are coming to tour the property in person. So a 3D property tour, basically you can look at every facet of the house almost, and you can actually do measurements as well. Mm-hmm. So for example, I say this often, I had a buyer that was interested in purchasing a property right when the pandemic, got started here in the States. And we used 3D tours to mark out some of those properties that they were interested in. So for example, they were looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They were considering possibly a 2-bedroom with a study. That Matterport tour allowed them to see that study is not going to cut it for us to convert it to a 3rd bedroom. So that first is what I tell sellers. Let's make that our top priority, and we offer that in our listing service. The next thing is sanitizing before, as a courtesy, before buyers come in. We have foot coverings that we'll set at the door so that the buyers, when they come tour the property, they can have foot covers on. So that gives the sellers comfort. We also will include hand sanitizer there at a station so that they can sanitize before walking through the home. We also do a disclosure request. Are you sick? Have you been around anyone who's been sick recently or diagnosed with COVID-19? If you're feeling unwell, we ask that you do not tour. We also ask that they bring the minimum number of people in the home necessary. So the people that are the key decision makers, they're the ones that we're asking to come into the property only. So, and then also a couple of things, we may ask them to wear gloves in the event that the sellers feel more comfortable with people entering their homes with gloves on. And then also face coverings. I know that's been a source of contention, and kind of a political issue here and there. But a lot of the sellers are wanting people to come into their homes with face coverings on, and we're obliging that.
Okay, wow, and that's really good. So I know you guys are doing this. And one thing I did in my research, you guys are big on service. Big on making sure everybody feels comfortable in this process, which I absolutely love. Now, for someone watching that's not in the same area, is that something that most real estate agents are doing? I know you can't speak on everyone's behalf. Is that a new protocol for all real estate agents, or is that something that you guys offer in particular?
For the service piece or for the precautions?
Precautionary piece.
I think a big portion of agents are complying with that same, those same precautions, because when we're taking clients on tours, we're seeing sellers, do the same protocols.
Good. Okay. So y'all, for you guys watching now, make sure that who you're with, your real estate agent is doing this. They have some protocols in place. That's important. That's to protect you as the buyer and to protect them as the seller. So I just wanted to make sure we point that out there as well. Now, and in my research, I was reading that right now some sellers are kind of hesitant to put their homes on the market. Are you seeing that there in that area?
Yes, we're seeing that. We had about a 20% decline in inventory from March to April, and the inventory is still low. I actually had a personal client of mine that chose to take their property off of the market for a while until, we can kind of figure out where this is heading. So yeah, we have a decrease in inventory right now in the DFW market. And I think pretty much a lot of metro markets are experiencing that.
And you think it's primarily because of the uncertainty that's out there? Is that why you think that's going on?
Uncertainty, and just don't know how they feel about people coming into their homes, so it's a mix of both, I believe. And then we did see in March the implementation of the stay-at-home orders. So that we believe that was the huge correlation there with the drop in inventory. People not knowing, if they can move around, if they can even show property. Real estate agents were unsure if they were essential workers, which in fact we found out that we are. So.
And that's the good thing, that you are essential workers. People need places to live, right?
Right.
So, and just the fact that you acknowledge that, the inventory is low. But so I asked you this question. I'm going to pivot to a business question for those agents that could be watching right now. What advice would you give agents, or are there any words of encouragement for those agents you've been in the game for 10 years, who are newer agents, and they see that the inventory is low? What would you tell them during this time?
I think really the best thing to do is get with your clients, find out how aggressive, they want to be and can be. Make sure you're staying within the parameters that have been given by their lender or their financial advisor. And also speaking with a listing agent to find out what are sellers looking for. If you made an offer with your clients and for some reason it got rejected because there was a multiple offer situation, contact that listing agent and say, hey, can you please give me feedback on my offer so I can know what I need to present, going forward, and how I can be more competitive.
Wow, that's some good advice. I've never heard anyone say, ask the listing agent for feedback on their offer. So is that like a practice that's normally done? I've never heard of that. That's really good.
We do it on my side.
Okay.
It's something I learned early on when we were probably like the 2014 era, when we were like in multiple offer situations left and right in this particular area in the DFW marketplace, Garland, Texas.
Okay.
And I mean, I had to learn quick.
You said you had to learn it quick, right? On the job training, is that what it's called?
That's exactly it. On the job training, and we are constantly learning.
And that's a good thing, constantly learning. When you constantly learn, you're constantly growing and your business grows, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So even if that's saying that, so going back to the seller, I know you talked about there's a decline in inventory. One thing for those first-time home buyers, they're hearing now that there is a decline in inventory, but they can see, and I know people are saying we're going into a recession, right? How can we reassure those first-time home buyers that it's going to be a buyer's market, if that's the right terminology? How do we reassure them that they're still in the game during a pandemic in order for them to get the best quality home for the price?
So you're right. Well, actually, it's a seller's market.
Okay.
So when the sellers have the advantage, when the inventory is low, that creates a demand on the buyer side. So, gosh, that's a loaded question. And I think it really goes back to showing them inventory and starting out with that search. You know, we can do it virtually. Starting out with that search and going through and showing them what they can get for the money and the days of inventory, the days on market for the homes. You know, like if we, for example, if we're looking in, I'll just pick a suburb, Frisco, and we see the average days on market is 5 days. Well, we know we're going to have to be hitting the pavement pretty quick, right? But if we're looking at another area and the average days on market is 30 days, well, that meant that from day one of the property going on the market, it took 30 days for it to get a contract. So we know we have a little bit of time, we have a little bit more advantage in that marketplace.
So pretty much it's being diligent, doing your research now that it is a seller's market, and making sure you're doing, or your realtor is doing, or your broker is doing what they need to do for you.
Exactly. And let me also add, considering new homes has been big right now. New home builders are offering a lot of incentives, and that is a really good piece of inventory as well to have, especially as a first-time home buyer. They offer warranties, you know, that cover everything from top to bottom of the house. So at least for the first year. So that is a really good investment, I say, for a first-time home buyer, not knowing what, you know, some of the things that you get into with owning a home.
Now that is a good point. So guys, you hear what you're saying now, like new construction, right? That is really good. And they'll probably allow you to customize some stuff too. Like with all these incentives, some upgrades, correct me if I'm wrong, but some things that were considered upgrades before could be a little bit less expensive. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're seeing incentives, you know, $20,000. Hey, we'll pay, you know, a certain number of months of your mortgage. So, I mean, there's a lot of incentives that the builders are offering. So it's definitely a strong piece of inventory to consider new construction.
Now let me go. I'm gonna back up again because I don't think they heard you. Okay, right. Some people are saying they're gonna. Some people. We're not saying all, but you've seen where they said what now? Say it again.
Up to $20,000 in incentives. Now, of course, it depends on your price point that you're purchasing in, but you know, it's a lot of strong offerings out there that makes that new construction a competitive piece of inventory.
So guys, like you're hearing now, like, look, this could be to your advantage when it comes to purchasing a home. Like I remember when I went to purchase a home, I'm like, I want this, I want this, I want everything. And then you're like, that's so great, that's so great. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want all that, right? Maybe just a little bit of this, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing you guys can look forward to in knowing what you can leverage and your rights as a first-time home buyer as well. Now, look, guys, you know, I like to, I have questions and I have notes. I'm looking over my notes. So I want to make sure we cover everything and get your questions answered. Now, I do have a question from a investor. They just really got into the investing arena. They have a couple of homes now currently. And they wanted to see like your opinion about, should they, even though the inventory is low, should they still invest? Should they purchase more homes? Should they wait? Do you have any advice for our investors here today?
We're still seeing investors in the market. And just in my personal opinion, with the exit that we saw of Open House, which was a huge purchaser, and Redfin exiting, that gives us a little bit more inventory to choose from as investors, right? So we're still seeing investors hitting the market.
Okay. And for those who do not know what Open House is, can you kind of tell us what is that?
Yeah, so Redfin and Open House are companies that have been purchasing homes as investors, and then they'll turn around and remarket the properties and sell them. And they have been making huge purchases, thousands of homes, I would say, probably. And they've just temporarily exited the market for now because of the uncertainty. So I think that frees up inventory for some smaller investors.
And that's good. Now, investors, y'all hear that, right? Did you hear what she said? So I know that was one of the questions that when they found out you were coming on today, one of my investors friends like, wait, no, you need to answer this question because they are newly investors. They're like I said, they have a couple of properties and they just want to get your opinion on it. So that's really good to know as well. Now, one thing that I've been reading on, like the FHA lending measures have tightened up due to lenders not willing to take significant risk. Can you kind of explain to me what does that mean for the home buyer right now? What does that mean?
Yeah, let me correct myself. I believe it may be open door, not open house.
Okay.
Referring to that big buyer investor. But as far as the FHA loans are concerned and they are not willing to take as much risk, the pandemic has brought on, again, that uncertainty with jobs. So lenders, it's actually lender specific. They're increasing, in some cases, their credit score requirements for FHA loans. So just to, take precautions on what people can purchase at this time, not knowing how secure their financial position is going to be 6 months from now.
So pretty much making sure, like you said, having that financial planner there and those resources to make sure you're prepared to purchasing a home. Now, would you recommend like people to have like a letter of intent or something from their job? Would that help them out as well?
So if you are trying to purchase a home, you can actually purchase a home with a letter of intent from your employer. It's got to be a letter of intent that has no like exclusions, I'll say. But yeah, I was actually on a call with a lender this morning and we were talking about that because some people are transitioning to new jobs right now. And yeah, you can actually purchase a home with a letter of intent, but it has to have no exclusions.
And for those who don't know what a letter of intent is, do you mind explaining that too?
Sure. So basically, you and your employer or future employer have an agreement for you to work. It's somewhat of a contract. It specifies how much you're going to be paid and at what interval, and a commitment basically from an employer to employ.
And one thing I want to say, guys, I've seen this done a lot where people have letters of intent. So this is not something new. This happened even when I got out of school. I didn't work a day on my job but I was still able to close because I had a letter of intent. So I just want to let you guys know, talk to your realtor about this. Like, what can you do to secure that home if that's the home that you want, especially in this uncertainty as well. Now, let me ask you, before we pivot to talk about business as a entrepreneur, is there any other advice that you would like to give home sellers or buyers or investors?
Just take your time. There's a lot of dynamics in the marketplace right now, and you have to make the best decision for yourself, for your family, for your business. So taking everything into account, having people on your team that you can trust, trusted advisors is really important right now. People that are watching the market and can at least give you up-to-date information on what's going on. That is key.
So that's good advice. Trust your advisors. Now let me make sure I ask you this question because it did come to me. For those who are thinking about purchasing commercial property, a lot of good jobs are going virtually. Mm-hmm. And it might be open door season for some people to purchase this commercial property. If I was your client trying to purchase commercial property, what advice would you give me in this time?
The commercial market is really interesting right now, especially office space, like you said, with a lot of jobs going virtual. Honestly, Dr. Maria, it's uncertain. It's in flux. And all I can say is you have to be ready to hold on. If you're going to get into the market, you have to be able to hold on for the long ride.
And that is a good point. because, some people, I was having a conversation the other day and somebody said, oh, I'm going to get this commercial property because it's, right now it's going to sell. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is it the time to get it? Why? Or is it this price now? You have to kind of look at it from like those context clues, what they say, right?
Right.
And I just wanted to just, ask that question. What did you think? Also, too, and this might be a loaded question, but I'm going to ask, do you think we're going to see what we saw in 2008 in the housing industry?
Well, I sure hope not. I don't think it will. If we do see something, a downturn in the housing market, I don't think it will be comparable to 2008.
Okay.
I think a lot of the states are pushing forward. I know here in Texas, they're really pushing forward on getting the economy reopened. So hopefully we don't see that. And in my opinion, I don't believe it will be to that extent.
And that's good to know. That's really good to know, because that would be my main question. I just remember back then, and people, that's why people are having anxiety as well, because they remember like 2008, right?
Right.
And so let's pivot a little bit. And I just want to go to talk about business and entrepreneurship. For those real estate agents out there who might be thinking about becoming a broker, or they're thinking about, opening up or doing some other things in the real estate industry. Could you give them some advice during this time? I know we talked about some things earlier, but as an entrepreneur, what would you say to a newly licensed real estate agent trying to decide what career path they should take at this time during the pandemic? What would you say to them?
So if you're a newly licensed agent, you need to be taking advantage of the opportunity to learn right now. Looking at the market trends, learning as much as you possibly can, getting designations. The National Association of Realtors has been offering some awesome benefits to us during this time, giving us discounts on education. Take advantage of it. Fill your book with resources. It's invaluable to be able to be educated on the process, be educated on the market, so that you can be able to help your clients as much as possible.
And see, and that's good advice. Like, that's one thing to read it, but from hearing it from somebody like you that's successful in this industry, guys, learn what you can learn right now. This is the time to learn. So as the year progresses, as the years progress, you're in position to do what you need to do, right?
Exactly.
And so with that being said, I want to talk about family and entrepreneurship, because from what in my research, you come from a family of investors or entrepreneurs. Is that correct?
That's correct. I come from a good line of investors. My grandfather was a concrete layer in Mississippi, and he got various contract jobs with the government, with the city, and he really laid the foundation for my family. My dad came from a large family. I think it's 8 brothers and sisters, if I'm correct. And the majority of them are entrepreneurs. And so we just have been, brought up that way and see the value in business ownership.
And that is really good. Like what I noticed when you said most of the people in your family are entrepreneurs just because of your grandfather's background. I mean, one thing they say, leave a legacy, right? But his legacy, it might not necessarily say money. I don't know, but he left instilled in you entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that I know, there's some entrepreneurs on here and they're watching. One thing that I wanted to point out, and even in her story, doing my research, that's the first thing you go to. You talk about your family, you talk about your grandfather and that foundation. So leaving that legacy for your family is really important. And look about how many entrepreneurs are in your family. Like, that's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yes, absolutely is a blessing. So for those guys watching now, you're thinking, well, this is just, some people say, well, this is my sidekick gig or whatever it is, but you don't know how this is going to impact your family for the long haul, years and generations to come. Now, one thing too that I noticed in business, well, your clients love your service, right? Like that's all. Every time, everything I saw was like service, service, service. I'm like, geez, I need to buy a house in Texas.
Come on down.
Because customer service is such a key component. I want you to talk about service for those in any industry. Tell us how you value service and how has that helped you receive or get the clientele that you do have. Can you talk to us about that?
So, as we know, service is the first impression and the last and lasting impression, right?
Mhm.
It's everything. And if your service is not on par, you cannot earn repeat business. And we have to earn the trust of our clients, and so they can refer us and feel comfortable referring us and knowing that the level of service is going to be there for their trusted family and friends and their network. So everything falls back on them if we don't take care of everybody the way we're supposed to, right? So we have to have that in business. It's key.
And that's very good. That is so true. Because that's the one thing I noticed. Like everybody says that about you, and how you really take care of them as clients, and you really listen to what they need. You, I guess, even as a pharmacist, you have to be an active listener, right? So,
Right.
so that skill set has afforded you to be in this industry and do what you do. Now, one thing I'm going to ask this as a entrepreneur who also is a healthcare professional, how do you balance life and business? Speak to me about that.
Well, I think first, Dr. Maria, you have to be doing things that you're passionate in. And when you have that passion associated with what you're doing, the balance becomes easy. The flow of it becomes something that you want to be in, you want to manage. So you can't, it's hard. It's not that you can't, but it's very hard to be involved in things that you're not passionate about and balance it, right?
Right.
Somewhere in your mind, you're going to drop some things because it's just not a serious, sincere interest, So I think passion is key.
And that's a good point. Like you said, what did you say? If you're going to drop some things, if you're not passionate about it, and that's really good to know. Even with that being said, so we know your background with your family history of entrepreneurship. How did you become passionate about selling homes? Like, did you tour homes? What sparked the interest of you becoming a principal broker?
So my family purchased a lot of property, bought and sold property. One of my aunts owned an apartment complex, and so I'm looking at them growing up, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. So I bought my first investment property, and I realized after I got through the process that I just did like you said earlier. I just signed paperwork, and I didn't really delve into the process the way I could have and learned it through and through. But again, I had people that I trusted that I worked with, so I could just go sign, right?
Right.
You should never do. You should always read.
Right.
Reading is fundamental. I cannot express that enough. Okay.
Exactly.
But I wanted to, I felt like there's so many people out there like me. Like you were saying, you went through the process, I went through the process, and we just had no clue really what we were doing. We made it and it was great. But, I think there's education that people could use, so I'm there to provide that service. I want to educate them from the beginning of the process to the end and after. So just so that they can know they have a wealth of information to make the right decisions for themselves.
And that's a good point of just education is the key. And like you said, like we're not advocating for anybody just signing paperwork. No. We're not saying that. And what she's doing, even on your platform, you have webinars, you have those classes to educate people. So there are things out there, you guys, for you to go in and educate yourself about purchasing a home. If you're a first-time home buyer, if you're an investor, whatever it is. Now, I know you said that you purchased your first investment property. What was the hardest lesson that you learned when purchasing that investment property?
You know, I don't necessarily think that I had a hard time with the purchase, but it was actually with the sale of it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Explain. Let us know? Like,
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah. So actually, the property needed a few repairs. And depending on the type of loan that the buyer is qualified for and is trying to purchase that home for, there's some repairs that you as the seller are going to have to do. So that was something that I was not prepared for. I actually ended up having to get a new roof on the property. This was a FHA loan, by the way, that the buyer was purchasing the home with. There was some type of gas furnace in the main bathroom on the wall. And according to FHA, that was a hazard, which it was. The home was built in like the 1960s. And so I had to have that removed. There was, a couple of things that I ran into, and it was like, wow, okay. I was not licensed then, okay?
Right. So we already know you look, she was not licensed and she knows now, okay? But that's good advice because there are some. I know that the shows like HGTV. I know I'm like an HGTV like nerd, I guess. And so one thing, they make it easy at times. You have those little moments where you like something's going wrong and they give you an experience, right? But just they don't always give you that realistic view of how it's going to be when you purchase or invest in a property. So that's one thing that's really good to know for somebody who's saying that I want to purchase an investment property right now. Now, are there any other aha moments that you've had in business that you would like to share with everyone?
Aha moments.
As in, yeah.
Try not to take everything on yourself if you possibly can. Even if you have passion about what you're doing, things can get overwhelming, right? So try to find some people that you can work with to help you if at all possible. And look at structuring that into your budget early. Because the more you grow, you can scale that, right? And you'll already have that help in place to help you propel when you grow. But yeah, I think just the biggest aha moment for me was, okay, I'm starting to get swamped here. I'm trying to manage marketing. I'm trying to manage administrative tasks in my business. I'm trying to manage being there for my colleagues. So I myself had to get help with some of the administrative tasks and some of the marketing tasks. And so I think that's a big deal, aha moment. Look, don't stress yourself out. Work in getting help early so that you can always have that in your budget.
And see, that is really good advice. Putting help in your budget, because I don't think everybody thinks about that. You're always thinking about being a one-man show at times, but being transparent and telling us like you did have to get help in some areas, and even now you have a team of brokers or real estate agents. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a team of real estate agents. We're actually in Dallas, Fort Worth, and in Houston. So we're growing. Yeah. And trying to scale the help along with it. So.
And that's really good too. Like that's growth. You want to see your business grow. Hey, I saw you guys on House Hunters. Is that correct?
Yeah. Portia Towers.
Yes.
Hunters recently. Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, just think about, look, guys, like an idea turned into pretty much a enterprise as a legacy, and she's on shows like House Hunters, right? Really helping people do what they need to do for their home or purchasing the right home for their family. Now, before we end this, one thing I wanted to ask you, what is the take home message that you want to give everybody here who may be trying to purchase a home? Is there any take-home message that you have for them?
Number one, work with a real estate agent, a realtor that has your best interests as paramount. Work with lending professionals that have your best interests paramount and understand the full scope of your situation. Do not be afraid of COVID-19 in terms of the buying process. If it's right for you, it'll work out in terms of the financing piece. We have a wealth of information that we've been distributing, free webinars for people to join on. I am going to send information with Dr. Maria to pass along to you all so that you can be able to look out for our next webinar. We've been working with first-time home buyers and focusing on that piece because we have a lot of buyers entering the marketplace right now. And then also be patient. This is the process. And there are a few things, a few kinks here and there that are occurring. And that is more specifically relating to the lending piece because they're so overwhelmed. So just having patience, having understanding that, you know, we're in a different time right now. There's a lot of things that are working very smoothly, but there's some things that you just have to have a little patience with.
Wow, that's good. Have patience, guys. Have patience. And so with that being said, I was going to ask you, like, what's your call of action or what's next? So you said that you do have some webinars coming up as well.
Yeah, so we're focusing on first-time home buyers right now, helping them to understand the process. This morning we did first-time home buying in the new normal. We had Alexandra Matthews, one of my colleagues, hosting information about how to purchase a home, you know, the first steps, an overview of the process. We also had a lender on the call, and we also had a title company on the call so that they can buyers can understand how these three entities work together. We're looking forward to actually having an inspector on the call on the webinar coming up next month. And we're looking for the inspector to tell the buyers what to look for when you're looking at homes.
Now that is good. Now, guys, y'all don't want to miss this webinar. That is very good information. That's valuable information. Definitely. So definitely, if you have not subscribed to our Doing Life with Dr. Maria newsletter, I need you to subscribe so you can get this information. That's how we're going to distribute it. So I'm just letting you guys know that right now, and we'll put the link in the comments. Again, thank you so much. Now, do you go by Dr. Joni now? Was it Dr. Joni Freeman? What you know about that? You know.
It's just little old Joni Freeman.
I got you. But you are doing some amazing things in Texas, and I look forward to seeing more on this journey. If you guys are in the Texas and Dallas, Texas area, and you're looking to purchase a home, I need you to go check out her website. I need you to go talk to her because she really does care about her clients. I've known her for so many years. So professional, so just elegant. Like you're bad. The girl is bad, y'all. Okay. So I want you to go check her out. Is it a website they can go to as well? Could you give us that as well?
Yes, www.jlmarsaw.com, and I'll spell that. It's my maiden name, ode to my grandfather. That was his initials. So it's JL, M as in Mary, AR, S as in Sam, AW.com.
All right. So guys, we're going to put that in the link below. Again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for continuously providing education and information for those who want to purchase a home. All right, guys, if you do not know me, I am Dr. Maria with Doing Life with Dr. Maria. And I'm so excited that you joined us today. And I end this show by saying the same thing each time. Today is the first day to the rest of your life. So you tell me, how are you doing life? Bye, guys.